Jocelyn, a successful businessman whose weakness is women. When meeting women for the first time, he always tells a new story about himself. The lies do not bother Jocelyn, he prefers to be someone different each time. Simple flirting has not interested him for a long while. Jocelyn is having lunch at a restaurant with his best friend Max, who advises him to try being himself at least once when talking to women. Their conversation is interrupted by a phone call, and that is how the man learns about the death of his mother, with whom he never managed to make peace. He attends the funeral. His relationship with his relatives is not very good, so not everyone is happy to see him. His brother Lucien gives him the keys to their mother's apartment. She would surely have wanted him to visit it one last time. Jocelyn looks through old family photographs. He was never particularly close to his family, so he does not know what he is supposed to feel now. Sitting in his mother's wheelchair, he turns on her favorite song and does not immediately notice a woman named Julie entering the apartment. She is a new neighbor, having just moved in. The woman thinks Jocelyn is disabled, and she mentions that she is a professional caregiver who happens to be looking for a job. The man plays along only so he can stare at her. Unaware of anything, Julie says she will be happy to help him at any time, then leaves. When Max, who is not only Jocelyn's friend but also his doctor, learns about this, he says it is a very, very bad idea. But Jocelyn sees an opportunity he cannot let slip away. Julie might respond to his advances out of pity. The men make a bet. Jocelyn runs a company producing athletic footwear, and thanks to his boldness he has reached the top. He is a selfish manipulator, and he has no qualms about taking advantage of that fact. Naturally, this applies not only to his career. He invites Julie to his mother's apartment for coffee. Out of politeness she agrees. The thing is, Jocelyn has no idea where anything is, and while he rummages through the kitchen, Julie finds a package of adult diapers. The man does everything he can to evoke pity, so he lies about being unemployed. Julie gently reproaches him, saying that disability is no reason not to work. Many patients she has cared for never let it stop them. Before she leaves, Jocelyn calls after her and hints that he is full of hidden surprises. He also admits that he is the CEO of a large company specializing in athletic footwear. Julie invites him to a Sunday barbecue with her parents. She does not know that he is actually healthy and can easily afford to drive expensive cars. Jocelyn still goes to Julie's parents' country house. They help him handle the wheelchair, which he is in truth not used to at all. Julie's family is rather straightforward, but overall they are good people. Jocelyn is stunned when Julie introduces him to her sister Florence, who also uses a wheelchair. Julie hints that Florence is unmarried. The situation takes a turn Jocelyn never expected, and he wants only one thing: to leave as soon as possible. Trying to ease the tension, Florence tells him about herself. She is a violinist, though not a soloist, so she never has to stand up to bow. The man finds her sweet and amusing. When Max learns about this, he asks Jocelyn how he can be so shameless. Jocelyn explains that the situation has spiraled out of control. He could not possibly confess to everyone that he is not disabled, especially after meeting Florence. Meanwhile, Julie runs into Lucien in the hallway between apartments. They introduce themselves. She asks why his brother's wheelchair is here. At first Lucien is puzzled, but once he understands what is going on, he improvises and plays along. His brother has started another game. Jocelyn visits his mother's grave. Sadly, they never manage to reconcile. Lucien approaches him and tells him that he is behaving wrongly. He is not as wealthy, he does not own a multi-billion-dollar company but only a car repair shop, yet he at least has some notion of conscience. Lucien believes his brother is constantly pretending because he does not love himself. Jocelyn tries to stay in good physical shape. Being attractive is very important to him. He never expected Florence to show up right in his office. On one hand, she feels awkward because her sister tried to set them up, but on the other, she believes they have much in common. They could get to know each other better. The woman notices that Jocelyn is sitting on the desk for some reason. At that moment he is almost ready to confess his lie, but Florence interrupts him, assuming that he is simply embarrassed about his disability. She urges him to be himself and to accept the fact that they are different from others. After hearing this, he cannot bring himself to tell the truth. The situation becomes more complicated because Marie, Jocelyn's secretary, has no idea what is going on, so he has several close calls. When Florence leaves, the man remains torn by conflicting emotions. Later, he attends a wheelchair tennis tournament. Florence has been playing for a long time. Such matches are not popular, so the audience is very small. Watching the will and strength with which the two women in wheelchairs play, Jocelyn cannot help but feel admiration. After the tournament he almost runs into Florence in the hallway and quickly sits in her spare wheelchair, lying that his was stolen while he was in the restroom. She invites him to have a drink with her and her disabled friends. Jocelyn cannot find an excuse to refuse. Naturally he feels uncomfortable in this company and does not know how to behave. Knowing that Florence plays the violin, Jocelyn begins taking an interest in classical music, although it used to make him feel bored. Marie decides to visit Florence in person to figure out what is going on. It quickly becomes obvious that Jocelyn has misled the poor woman, yet Marie still does not understand what exactly he hopes to achieve. Florence guesses that the secretary is in love with Jocelyn and assumes that she does not take the next step because of his disability. Marie avoids giving a direct answer, saying only that Florence is lucky. People like her often tend to be optimists and value life more deeply. Then she presents Jocelyn with a fait accompli: he is going to Florence's concert in Prague. The secretary has already taken care of rearranging his schedule. In Marie's opinion, this will give him a good opportunity to tell the truth and apologize for his cruel behavior. Jocelyn arrives at the opera house earlier than planned and tries to explain to the administrator that he needs a wheelchair. But Jocelyn does not speak the language well, so his attempts look comical. Eventually he manages to convey what he wants. From the auditorium he sees Florence on stage with the rest of the orchestra. Suddenly Jocelyn's phone begins to ring. He apologizes to the elderly woman sitting next to him, mentioning that he is a doctor. Another lie. Jocelyn knows no other way. The music captivates him. Florence seems completely absorbed by her violin, and the rest of the world ceases to exist for her. This time she is playing a solo. After the concert, Jocelyn approaches Florence, who never expected to see him there. He says he was in Prague for a business deal and happened to learn she had a performance. Florence promised to have dinner with her friends, but she prefers to spend the evening alone with Jocelyn. At the restaurant she asks him to admit that he did not learn about her concert by chance. The man points out her own lie in return. Earlier she claimed she did not play solos. Florence explains that she was simply substituting for the soloist, who had fallen ill. The evening goes by easily and pleasantly. With Florence he feels he does not want to pretend, yet his lies have gone too far. There is no turning back. Later, they admire the night lights of Charles Bridge, and completely absorbed in each other, they do not even notice dawn approaching. Jocelyn walks Florence to her hotel. She invites him to come up to her room for a drink. He hesitantly agrees, although he knows he should put an end to this. Florence is the first woman who has truly won his heart, yet in essence she does not know him at all. It is difficult for Jocelyn to say that he will not stay. Even if it hurts Florence, she does not show it. Whatever happens, this woman radiates optimism. Her smile is all Jocelyn needs. They part. Florence only hopes they will see each other again. He has no idea what he should do now. She returns to France and tells her sister about the remarkable trip. She is troubled by the fact that Jocelyn refused to stay with her at the hotel. Julie suggests that perhaps he was afraid of embarrassing himself. Whatever the case, Julie has not seen her sister this happy in a long time. Meanwhile, Jocelyn and Max go to a party. But women's attention no longer brings Jocelyn any joy. Marie approaches him and asks how things went in Prague. The secretary is clearly worried that his relationship with Florence has gone too far. Yet to her relief, he says that he lost his nerve and did not confess the truth to Florence, and that nothing happened between them. He leaves the party early. At home, Jocelyn calls Florence and invites her to dinner at his place. She gladly agrees. She happens to have Monday free. The next day he has lunch with Max, who as a doctor explains to him how things work for people with paralysis, the nuances, the specifics, everything involved. Jocelyn finds it far too complicated, but he can no longer bring himself to confess to Florence that he was merely pretending to be disabled in order to win Julie over. Max advises him to put an end to all of this. On Monday evening, as agreed, Florence arrives. Jocelyn has lit candles in advance to create a romantic atmosphere. She notes that his home is clearly not designed for people with disabilities. The man is nervous, trying to gather the courage to tell Florence the truth, yet each time he backs out at the last moment. He simply cannot find the words. Over dinner she asks him how he ended up in a wheelchair. Jocelyn improvises and makes up a story about falling off a horse. Florence in turn tells him about the car accident that took away her ability to walk. Fortunately, her violin had been on the back seat and was unharmed. Florence took it as a sign of fate. Before Jocelyn manages to tell her the truth, Florence tells him about her previous relationship that ended badly. She thought that man truly loved her, but he cheated on her, on his own birthday. Deceit and betrayal are two things Florence does not forgive. This makes Jocelyn change his mind about revealing the truth, because doing so would mean losing his love. Instead, he takes the remote control, presses a button, and both of them along with the table begin to descend slowly on a special platform into the pool. Since Florence insisted on meeting Jocelyn's friends, he had to ask Max and Marie for help. After all, they are the only ones who know the truth. The meeting takes place in a Chinese restaurant chosen by Florence. But the atmosphere at the table is tense from the very beginning, because everyone except Florence knows it is nothing more than a ridiculous performance, yet another attempt by Jocelyn to maintain his lie. When Max finally decides to tell her everything, Jocelyn spills soy sauce on himself and asks his friend to help him in the restroom, anything to prevent him from speaking to Florence. Lucien comes to Julie with a bouquet of flowers and tells her that his brother is not actually disabled, believing it is the right thing to do. Angry, Julie finds Jocelyn at an outdoor cafe, and in front of the other guests, slaps him across the face, shocking everyone, as he is in a wheelchair. She gives him 2 days to tell Florence everything. Jocelyn realizes that he cannot do it and begs Julie to take it upon herself. But she refuses, saying that the real disabled person here is not Florence but him. There is nothing sacred in him. For the first time in a long while, Jocelyn visits his father in the nursing home. He simply no longer knew whom to turn to or who could give him advice. The man assumes that his son cannot confess to Florence out of pity. But Jocelyn knows for certain that it is not pity, because Florence is so strong and takes everything life has to offer. Then the man advises his son to choose the only right option, tell the truth, or take Florence to a church and pretend to experience a miraculous healing. Jocelyn chooses the second option. And of course he cannot do it without Max and Marie. Julie tries to convince Florence to leave Jocelyn, saying that she was mistaken, that he is not her person. At that moment Florence reveals that she knows Jocelyn is not disabled, because she herself is disabled. Florence knowingly allowed herself to be deceived because it feels wonderful to feel loved, or at least to believe in it. As soon as Jocelyn tries to mislead her about his miraculous recovery, she will say goodbye to him forever and keep only the good memories. For now Florence, like everyone else, continues to support this performance. The group travels to a holy pilgrimage site where people from all over the world come in the hope of a miracle. The priest immediately understands that Jocelyn is not disabled and asks to speak with him privately. The priest says that if Jocelyn does not abandon his idea, he will desecrate a sacred place that for many is their last hope. It is solely a matter of conscience. And besides, if he stands up from the wheelchair in front of everyone, people will start filming him, and he will become a local sensation. Jocelyn asks the priest how he figured it out. The man explains that it was his worn-out shoes. In the end Jocelyn refuses the idea of pretending to experience a miraculous healing. The return trip passes in silence. When they stop at a roadside cafe, Florence nearly gets hit by a truck, but Jocelyn manages to jump out of his wheelchair and save her. Yet even now he refuses to admit that he lied all this time, mumbling uncertainly that a miracle occurred. Florence leaves him without a word. The man tries to go back to his old life, but nothing will ever be the same for him. Without Florence his life is empty and meaningless. Since he has nothing left to lose, Jocelyn blocks the path of Florence's tour bus just to ask for forgiveness. She does not know what to say in return. He calls his secretary into his office to talk. Unable to keep it to herself any longer, Marie admits that she has been in love with him for 12 years, but he seems not to notice her at all. Today is her birthday, though Jocelyn likely does not remember that. Marie simply does not understand what else she should do. What is wrong with her? Without saying anything more Jocelyn gives her the gift. He actually did remember her birthday. The man takes part in the annual running marathon, but he is no longer young or vigorous, so shortness of breath quickly slows him down. At that moment Florence appears, and smiling asks whether he is ready to give up, because he never gives up. She invites him to sit on her lap, and he does so. Together on her wheelchair, they cross the finish line. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss more exciting new products. Also, the authors will be pleased if you leave your opinion in the comments.